The mayor of Nashville, Tennessee has officially stepped down following a sex scandal that she was involved in. The former mayor, Megan Barry, was caught having an affair with the head of her security, Sergeant Rob Forrest, and the affair was consensual. Yes, they're both married, but having an affair is not breaking the law or committing a crime. However, an investigation did find that they did use some taxpayer money during their affair, which led to her promptly stepping down. Now, she pleaded guilty in court as part of a negotiated agreement with the district attorney, Glenn Funk, to felony theft over $10,000 related to her affair with her former police bodyguard. Now, as part of her plea deal, Barry was sentenced to 3 years of probation and has agreed to reimburse the city $11,000 in unlawful expenses. So to give you an example of how she committed this crime, go on work trips, and of course the head of her security, the man that she was having the affair with, would travel along with her, and then they would stay an extra day and carry out whatever situation was going on there. Okay, you guys get it.
I think they do.
Yeah. Okay. Forrest, the sergeant here, also pleaded guilty to property theft and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. As part of his plea agreement, he's required to reimburse the city $45,000 that was paid to him as salary and overtime during times when he was not performing his duties. So he would be on the clock while he was carrying out this affair, and as a result, he was, using taxpayer money, and he will have to reimburse the city that amount. Now, an affidavit detailed nude photos that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said appeared to be Barry taken on the phone of Forrest during city trips. They also highlighted hundreds of deleted phone chats on Forrest's phone. This story seems odd to me. Now, they did something wrong. They did use taxpayer money, and they should be punished as a result of that. But I feel like the investigation and the hyper focus on Megan Barry is odd considering how politicians throughout the country typically behave.
Let her go.
No,
let her go. Okay, let me explain. So I first see the headline, and sorry, I guess this is a bad admission on my part, but I didn't know if the Nashville mayor was Democrat or Republican. I'm not that involved in Tennessee politics. So I thought to myself, and you believe me if you want, don't believe me if you don't want, but I'm telling you right now that before I read the story, I saw the headline that she slept with her bodyguard and had to step down, and I thought,
who cares? Like, why is it our business?
Right. And I said, I don't care if she's a Republican or Democrat, and I'm curious to find out, but if that's all there is to the story, she shouldn't step down at all. Now, I was curious if she's a Republican, if she was a hypocrite, talked about family values, that I would care about. But even so, I'm tired of judging people. It depends on the severity of it, right? So then we looked into it. Now, of course, it turns out she is a Democrat. She's apparently progressive and was very popular in Nashville. And so, by the way, another Southern popular progressive who then winds up having a scandal and then is taken down. Anyway, so now that I've read all the details of it, not quite as easy to say let her go, because they really shouldn't have done a couple of things here, right? So one, you could say they shouldn't have had the sex. Yes, but that's not our problem, man. That's not our issue. And they were married. It's so easy to judge people on sex, so easy, right? So, no, I don't want to. I don't want to judge them whether they're Democrats or Republicans on the sex alone. I don't care, right? So, and we have been consistent on this show. If they ran on family values, we point that out. There's been a couple of Republicans involved in sex scandals who did not run on family values, and I said, let them go. I don't see what the problem is. That's their problem, not our problem. So anyway, in this case, yes, they shouldn't have stayed an extra day in Athens, Greece, and the different trips that they took. Yes, they used taxpayer money. More problematic, even than that, was they then switch, instead of his boss keeping his timesheet, to the mayor, her keeping the timesheet, and he starts putting those hours on overtime. Nah, you can't do that. Why did you do that? Because that looks like that's intent. It looks like they switched it so that they could charge more hours. I don't care if you sleep with them, but you can't charge more hours on purpose. And some of these trips she didn't have security on before, but after the affair, she has security with her all the time. That's still racking up the bills, right, for taxpayers. So it's wrong. So I'm half kidding when I say let her go. On the other hand, it is so easy to do political assassinations of people. All you have to do is look into their sex life. For guys, you're gonna get a hit 8 out of 10 times, okay? But now, apparently, for some women, you're gonna get a hit a couple of times. I've seen Republican women have issues with this too. But most of the time, the people looking are Republicans, so they get progressives far more often.
Right. Look, I actually don't have a problem with the outcome of this story because of the fact that they, misused taxpayer money. You can't do that. You're stealing from your very constituents. So I think that it makes sense for her to step down. If it was simply the two of them having an affair, then I don't even think it's a story. I wouldn't even bother talking about it on the show. But the thing that I do want to point out is how it's interesting how this country works, right? So there's one form of theft by politicians that's completely acceptable, and then there's this form of theft from taxpayers that is completely unacceptable. And so what I mean by that is politicians throughout the country will push for insane tax cuts for the wealthy, and then what do they turn around and do? They do regressive taxes on the working class and the middle class, essentially robbing the people who need that money the most. That form of theft is totally fine, but this form is unacceptable. I just think that we need to focus on what the real issue is. Yeah, $10,000 is pretty serious, but think about how much money gets taken away from Americans throughout the country on a regular basis in the form of these tax cuts, which then further defund programs that we need. And I'm not talking just about welfare programs. I'm talking about quality education, which has been completely underfunded and dismantled as a result of politicians pushing for tax cuts.
Yeah, and I want to be super clear about this. It isn't just policy differences. Oh, what level should taxes be? No, we just did a story today that TYT broke about Heidi Heitkamp. She's a Democrat from North Dakota. So she voted for banking deregulation, and it turns out she's got $1 million invested in the banks that she deregulated.
Right.
And it turns out she's the #1 recipient of campaign donations from the banks. What? Come on now. Look, that's not a policy difference. That's corruption 101. And that doesn't involve $10,000. That involves billions of dollars. An amazing stat is over a 5-year period, the top 200 corporations that donate to politicians gave $5.8 billion. That's a lot of money, okay, that they spent on donations and lobbying. You know what they got in return from taxpayer subsidies? $4.4 trillion. So we're putting people, she's on probation, she's out of office, etc., for $10,000. But $4.4 trillion taken from our pockets, and that's business as usual. So, I mean, I'm partly tired of the judging of people's sex lives and how easy it is to do political assassinations of your opponents, because everybody makes mistakes, and especially when you make one about sex, it usually is compounded, because you know what people do when they're having an affair or the wrong kind of sex? They lie. So it's super easy to get them, right? And the right wing does it over and over again. Meanwhile, $4 trillion left the building and you weren't paying attention.
Right.
You just watched a video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.